Technicolor.
What live?
We got WandaVision. So just like last week, we're just gonna do a non-spoilery, what's it called? Review of the show without really going too deep into it, because we are going to do our commentary this week. So back us on Patreon to get access to those. But so we're in the 70s with this one.
Yeah.
And my favorite thing about this episode was it was the Brady Bunch house, just backwards.
Yeah. It took me a minute to figure, because I kept wondering, why does this look so familiar to me?
Because we had a view of the house from the kitchen, like from the side door that takes you out to the backyard instead of the front door.
Mm-hmm.
And it was amazing. Yeah. I loved it. I love the Brady Bunch. So seeing that was great. I love the opening credits this week. They were the best ones yet.
Yeah. And again, I know this isn't for everyone. I love the creativity they're using here. And I think I said it last week when it kind of reminds me in a way of Cobra Kai and how they bring on the nostalgia of something that came before it.
Right.
But also interweave their own story. It's not just leaning on nostalgia to say, hey, oh, that was cool, and then forget about it. Because this also has that mystery of what the hell is going on.
Right.
And one of the things you said when we were off, before we started recording, is it was kind of dark.
Yes.
And it was. And the first thing I noticed, like watching through it, is there were more serious moments in this one than there were in the first two episodes, probably in the first two combined.
Mm-hmm.
And that shows me and how we're getting more of the mystery slowly, kind of like Shrek and being an onion, slowly peeled away for us to see and figure out what's going on.
Right. Yeah, no, you're 100% right that we're getting more and more of that. And I don't know, I like it. I like the show. I had a couple people be like, I can't believe you liked WandaVision. And I was like, it's fun. It's different. It's the most creative thing that Disney Marvel has done yet.
Oh, absolutely.
And, let's be honest, there's been much more Marvel from Disney than there was Marvel from just Marvel on its own at this point. And this is like, I put this creatively up there with Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. This is a show that I know I will be going back and revisiting.
Well, you have to, because there's so many Easter eggs.
Yeah. And and again, even after a couple viewings, especially like last week, there was stuff that, you mentioned that I was like, oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, and same.
I didn't hear that.
It was the same thing for me with you. But yeah, so in this episode, at the end of episode 2, which they got titles, by the way, like yesterday.
Yeah, I noticed that. Yeah.
That made me mad.
Yeah.
It's like, do I go back and update the show notes? No, screw it. But anyway, so this week it kicks off where, she's pregnant and it's the 70s and the doctor is there checking on her. And Vision is freaking out because of how fast everything's going.
Yeah. And again, I love the chemistry between those two. I liked it when they were just Wanda and Vision, and he was less emotional. Like, because I always think about in Civil War when he comes through her wall, and he's like, the door was open, so I just assumed that. No, it is. We talked about this. So seeing him from Paul Bettany again, because I like Paul Bettany too.
Same.
Yeah, I'm a fan of Paul Bettany. First time I ever saw him, I'm pretty sure it was Knight's Tale, walking down the street as Chaucer naked, walking down the road because he lost his clothes.
He wasn't walking; he was trudging.
Oh,
the action word. He was trudge to trudge. And what wanted
that's
to fall
another
in.
movie. Yeah.
Anyway, no, you're right. And the best thing about Paul Bettany in this episode in particular is the facial expressions he gets to make in and out of the Vision makeup.
Yes. those were clear, like those were clear and present this week.
So,
And yes, just seeing him be able to emote more has been a treat.
yep.
And, this whole, well, I said this whole series. There's 3 episodes.
And if you're listening to this on YouTube or you went to the website to watch it, I did grab my favorite Paul Bettany reaction and put it in the thumbnail. So there's that. But yeah, it was really great. I like Dr. Nelson because he's like, oh, you'll be fine. I'm going to Bermuda. I'll be gone, for however long. And Vision's doing the math and reading all the pregnancy books. He's like, yeah, you should be having the baby by next Friday. And nothing ever goes to plan for these two.
No.
So
no, and again, it leans on some of that, the humor from those shows in this, those sitcoms in the 70s. But like we mentioned, there's more those layers of mystery with some of the other characters being involved in it. I mean, we don't get much from Agnes, Catherine Hahn's Agnes, but we get a little bit more where it makes your ears perk up and say, okay, what's going on? And it's tough to talk about. This is one of those shows it's kind of hard to talk about, non-spoilery stuff, but also it kind of falls in line with, we still don't know what's going on.
Yeah. And you had Sherbert next door, like doing the gardening. I'm always going to call him Sherbert.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So Herbert, the next door neighbor. We got a lot of Geraldine this time out.
Yes.
Which was really good, played by the wonderful Tahona Paris. Did I say that right? Tayona? Yeah.
I believe.
She was really good. Like, I really liked her in this episode, and she has a great moment that leads to kind of the reveal we've been waiting for.
Yes.
And then something kind of strange happens, which again is this episode moved everything forward so much so quickly that I can't wait to see what happens in the 80s next week.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, and again, it's when the Mandalorian, every Friday was looking forward to the Mandalorian, and now I wasn't sure about this show, but now 2 weeks in, it has me looking forward to Fridays again.
Yeah, also, so this is what DePlus needed to do, right? They need to have that show. They need to have every Friday that show that has people hooked.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, I'm not waking up at 3 a.m. to watch this just to avoid spoilers. But, the fact that I'm off Twitter now, I don't have to worry about being spoiled for things.
Yeah.
Anyway, and it's just one of those things where I don't think spoilers for this show are necessarily a bad thing, because there's so much going on, and it's so steeped in the comic lore for the characters that I think that's pretty great. And then the commercial this week was a straight up Hydra commercial for Hydra Soak.
Hydra Soak.
Soak. Thank you. Hydra Soak. Unleash the goddess within. And you know what I noticed today is that it's been the same 2 actors in all 3 commercials.
Really?
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
So good job on what's her name? Jax Schaefer, who is the showrunner of the show. So this one was just like last week this one was wrong show. This was directed again by Matt Shakeman, who is one of the executive producers. He's directed all 3 episodes so far, and it was written by Megan McDonnell. So, yeah, it's really, I really like what they're doing. I like where the show's going. I like, I really liked how yellow the house was. That was something that I was kind of curious as to what color the house was going to be. And it's like that Vision cape yellow from the comic.
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool. And then my other favorite part, actually Vision was probably my favorite part of this episode. Of all the cool things that happened, I loved when he was like, oh, I'll run. And he runs and gets the doctor. And he he picks him up and then runs back with him, and the doctor's like, it felt like we were flying. It's like, you probably were. So
yeah, and I think what you said earlier, the part of this that was very important is how it moved the story forward.
Yep.
Because again, it could have been caught in that slope of nostalgia and not move the story as fast, as quickly as it needs to be moved. But instead, it didn't do that. It knew on that third episode, it knew, hey, we have 8 episodes, or was it 8 or 9? I don't recall.
I think it's 8. I thought I saw 8 on the like little Wikipedia or episode list of the TBD.
Okay. So it knew this episode really had to push that story forward a little bit more than the first 2 episodes did, and it does just that.
Right. All right. So then one last thing is Geraldine, just kind of a little bit of spoiler. She gets popped out of Westview, and so the Wikipedia summary says then SHIELD and SWORD agents surround her. How could you tell? It was so dark and it was so fast.
I didn't see any symbols. I didn't see any, insignias.
So we just know that army type people are surrounding her. And so here's my question that I'm going to leave everybody with, and before we get into like our little rankings for the show, is Geraldine like really Monica Rambeau, like they're saying, and she was somehow inserted into this alternate WandaVerse, or did Wanda conjure her and Geraldine is not Monica Rambeau and she's just going to take that moniker?
Very interesting.
So yeah, I have no idea. I'm not reading ahead. I haven't watched any previews. I don't know. It's just, but it would be very interesting for them to be like, oh, you actually look like this agent who grew up and died, and we're just going to give you her name now, and here you are as part of SWORD or whatever. I think that would be kind of a cool way to go.
Yeah. I did not think about that part of it.
Anyway, all right. So let's do Maximov babies out of 5. What do you give this one?
At first I would have said a 3.5, but I'm sticking with that 4. I would say it's from a full enjoyment factor. It's probably my second favorite episode, but from a overall importance factor, it's my favorite episode, or it's number 1.
Okay.
As far as importance to the rest of the series.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna go with a 3.5 on this one. And not because I didn't like it or I didn't enjoy it. I just missed the whimsy from the first 2. I know this show has to go dark, and it's gonna have to go dark sooner rather than later. But that being said, I was enjoying the more wholesome entertainment side of things that were the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, and that's.
Or I'm sorry,
the first time,
60s.
Yeah, the first time of watching it, especially like the first 10 minutes, I was missing that. I was missing that a lot, and then I kind of had to turn it on its head, and I understood why they were doing it, but I do miss that kind of, like you said, that whimsy from the 50s and 60s type sitcom.
But this was my favorite like opening credit, like WandaVision opening credits yet. So I thought it was great because it was a little like Laverne and Shirley. It was a little Three's Company. It had just a ton of stuff in there.
Yeah.
So,